Hello, today's video is about the philosophical origins of the cultural misogyny. The Aristotelian writings, specifically a book that he wrote about animals, attributes to the reproductive function of women and mankind a passive or cold role. Supposedly, the hot or active part would be on men and the cold passive part would be on women. Other natural philosophers of the same time were working around the same idea that the men would have some kind of little human, some kind of homunculus inside them, and that they would just give this little man to grow inside the woman. So women would just be a nice, a useful place for the homunculus to turn into a baby, and there would be no reproductive power on woman, only reproductive power on man. Aristotle and those other natural philosophers, they were embedded in the Christianity by Thomas Aquinas, but they were also very influential in the philosophy of Islam and on Jews. He was accepted and he was influencing the whole idea of womanhood in the Western and even in the Mid-Eastern world from the beginning of this Christian era up to today. And from this idea that women have no reproductive power and that they are just useful places for the homunculus to grow, not even the exclusive place, just a useful and easy access one. That's many other things about the relationship between man and woman developed, many other ideas, like the idea that women lose value, they are less valuable when they get older and they are not able to have children anymore. By the lens of this philosophical concept, people read history and they reinterpret history with those preconceived notions. So they look to the history of mankind for examples to justify this idea, and when they find those examples, they exaggerate those examples. When they do not find those examples, they treat as an exception. So whenever you found some strong women in history, this is viewed as an exception. And there is this myth that the common existence of women was always as passive creatures waiting to be good receptacles for the babies. So this is an hermeneutical spiral. They come from a preconceived idea, they look in the history for ideas that fit this preconceived model, so they research for any instance when they can reinforce the ideas of passive woman and active man. Whenever they found something that's different, they try to explain this as exception, because they are just feeding the hermeneutical spiral that starts with this wrong philosophical notion. And when you have a man and a woman in very similar roles, doing very similar things, the reading of those behaviors are manipulated into fitting into this philosophical tradition. For example, when you see Cleopatra as a powerful queen, they attribute her power of queen as as an acting of seduction. And when you see Solomon as a powerful king and making his kingdom larger and more powerful by marriages, they do not attribute this as the use of seduction. So we see fallacies like people saying, oh, those things are like this since the dawn of man, since the dawn of time. That men are providers, men are protectors, women need to be protected, new women are just nurturing because their nature is to have babies. And you see this kind of fallacy being also presented with natural metaphors that are also wrong. Like, this is how it works with all the animals. And the origins of this idea of appealing to nature and the idea of protectors, this all goes to the vice of this wrong interpretation about biology, reproductive biology. So those are the roots of misogyny. And we need to be aware that this is the place from where the cultural misogyny is coming from. So we can clean up our minds and make a new access of natural philosophy and of metaphysics without the prison of those hermeneutical spiral, the prison of those preconceived bad corrupt notions that we know are not correct according to a proper understanding of natural philosophy and a more free understanding of metaphysics. We need to clean up our minds and we need to clean up our environments so that people will not feel pressured to keep up with those traditions, but they may feel free to access those ideas without those bad preconceived influences.